had her baby. We're gonna send a.
She did have a baby?
Yeah, $10 from everybody. That'll give us.
No, but Kevin could get it for you, I'm sure.
Singles, I didn't even measure it. They're 39 inches long. It's been that long since I've doing them. I used to remember the metric ones. They were 39, but so, yeah, all of a sudden I'm measuring my 12s, you know, the cutoff, and I'm like, yeah, I'm 39. Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
Singles are so simple now, you know, because you don't have a 3-tab.
I have 3-tab on my roof.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's just, you know, when you're cutting, you know, like these, you can cut anywhere starters. You can go every 5 inches, 10 inches, 15, you know, you can only do like 12.
Mm-hmm.
Perforated, so you can just whack them that way. Have a glitch.
Every week we go through this. Been doing it for over a year. You'd think they'd have it figured out.
She sounds really good.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody tonight to the meetings. Tonight, we're going to go right into the joint meeting with Community Development and Finance. So I'm going to call Community Development, and I'll ask Mr. Tollett to please call Finance.
I'll call Finance to order and note for the record, Mr. Stewart is out of town for a personal wedding this week, so I will take over the chairman's position for tonight. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Tollett. Okay, just 2 items on the agenda for the joint meeting tonight. And the first one is the approval of the August 30th, 2021 Joint Community Development and Finance meeting minutes. Could I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Sarah, seconded by Mrs. Mitchell.
Question.
Question on the motion. All in favor of the motion, please use the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried. Okay, next item is the matter of determining the appropriate course of action to restore the function of the Two Falls Connector Bridge in Cascade Park. This is referred to by council members Davis, Simmons, and Callahan. I guess I'll just start out by saying the city received a $500,000 grant back in 2005, and construction on that bridge started in 2006, and it was either completed in late 2006 or early 2007. I do know that the bridge is not functional at this point, and I guess it has been for some time. So I have received some calls from some residents over the last several months, just asking the simple question, is what's going on with the bridge, or is the bridge going to be repaired? So I thought collectively, as council members, with the administration, law director, engineering, that we know where we stand with that bridge and going forward. So I guess I'll start out. I see Mr. Jesse has his hand up, so Councilman Jesse.
Yeah, and I thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you, and I would also defer in a moment to Engineer Schneider. But there's a committee with Cascade Park and members of council. Mrs. Davis and Mrs. Keys are on that. We did have a meeting 2 months or so ago, and that issue did come up. Now, Mr. Kasich, who is the architect for the Metro Parks, reported that that bridge is not viable any longer to fix because of the way things have shifted, and that their proposal was they would restore it from one side, and then it would go out into the middle of the river, and there would be a vantage point. Obviously, I'm not an architect, but it was told to us that that bridge was, regardless of an amount of money that would be thrown at it, that the bridge was not a viable fix to go completely across the river. So that's what we were told in that meeting. Mr. Schneider, do you have any more information on that? And I saw our law director shaking her head as well.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do not have any additional information. I don't know what all happened down there. I do know over time, back after it was built, the bridge had some sort of, it appears to be some sort of movement of the lands around it where it actually compressed the bridge, which caused it to bow. Right before it was turned over to the Metro Parks, we went down there and we had saw cut the back wall, which was actually compressing the bridge, and relieved the pressure on the bridge so that it no longer had that. I have not been down there in a while to look at it, but so there was definitely some sort of movement in the earth that causes compression without having some inclinometers or something installed down there to see if it's still moving or not. I can't tell you that, but.
Okay, thank you. Law Director Derry, did you want to weigh in?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, my understanding was that at some point after this bridge was installed, that it did experience a shifting in the land to which it is attached. So this is not just a matter of the integrity of the bridge itself. So it involves a great deal more than that. My office has had the opportunity to do a cursory review of the agreement between the city and the Metro Parks, and just based on that, obviously we would do a little more digging, but it does appear that this particular item of the Two Falls Connector Bridge, there is a specific provision for it in the agreement, and that the city did agree to address it. So I would let council be aware of that that the city did agree to address this matter in the agreement with Metro Parks, rather than turning it over to the Metro Parks.
When you say address this matter, do you mean that it would be our financial responsibility?
I'm not saying that there couldn't be something worked out with them, but I would tell you that based just on the provision, it does say that the city would address it. And that is literally the wording. I don't have it in front of me, unfortunately, but I would tell you that the provision of restoring it is listed, and it does say that it would be the city's responsibility. Now, could we work that out in some fashion with the Metro Parks? Of course. That's something they may very well be better suited to deal with it However, I would say that the responsibility was not only assigned to the city, but it was also accepted by the city.
Thank you, Law Director Deary. That's good information. Thank you. Councilman Baird.
Yeah, just quickly. I guess I'm not familiar where this bridge is or what it's like. I'm just kind of like,
Okay.
I don't go down to Cascade Park that often, obviously, but, anybody can fill me in on?
Well, I can fill you in. I think probably a few others could, but that's a good question for anybody else that doesn't know. If you're standing on the Lake Avenue Bridge and you look to the north, you can clearly see the bridge. It was built back in, I believe, 2006, and it served its purpose, but obviously, you know, there are problems, you know, with the land by it. So we want to address this because, you know, many Boy Scout troops, Girl Scout troops in the city have gone on the trails down there, and that's actually one of the calls I received was from a Boy Scout leader who said, hey, the bridge is closed, when are they going to reopen it? Let me look into it. So, but that's where the bridge is, and it's was used for many years, but now it's, you know, unsafe.
Does it run parallel to the Lake Avenue Bridge?
It certainly does, yes.
Does it go all the way across?
It connects the west side to the east side, fully across.
Well, of course, the problem with that is when it floods, I'm sure that's what undermines it. And I would guess, certainly not being an engineer, but that's something that you probably would look down in Louisiana or wherever. Every time you get a terrible water situation.
Right.
So, okay.
Well, that is true, but I believe all those factors were taken into account by ODNR, where we got the grant from back in 2006.
Yeah.
Of course, you know, things change with the weather,
Sure.
we know all that. And the
Ice,
floods.
you know, when it turns ice, and that moves these things too, right, engineer?
Well, it wasn't the flooding. It was actually, I don't know how familiar you are with the area. It's a nice crevice in that area, and you have Cascade Street on the one side with a nice sized hill. And the intention of this bridge, when it was built in the mid-2000s, was to connect this over to East Falls Riverwalk.
Okay.
And then shortly after, I think that when the bridge was built, there was some large section, if you go behind Cascade Street and Parkview Court and all that, there were some large, not concrete, but sandstone chunks of earth that fell, and actually the old path that used to lead behind the police department then was, it had erosion, and because of those issues, it kind of cut that area off. So to extend it further was kind of looked at as it was going to be very expensive in the future to try to connect it. So it kind of ended right there.
Well, makes me curious to go look anyway to see what's going on, because I was totally at a loss. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. I could ask for more questions, but we also have a guest that just arrived. So we'll ask Mr. Zemenek from the Lorain County Metro Parks to speak. And if there's more questions, we'll just take it from there. Mr. Zemenek, just please state your name for the record and address of the corporation.
You need a mask up for this?
That's your choice.
Okay, well, I'm vaccinated. I had my shots. Jim Zimnick, the director of the Lorain County Metro Parks. I was invited here by the mayor to talk about the Two Falls Bridge and answer, I guess, any questions or where things, with some visions that we had for going forward with this. So I just, for the record, want to make it, to clear up any confusion, the Two Falls Bridge, when we did the original agreement with the city of Elyria, the Two Falls Bridge and the East Falls Riverwalk were not part of the agreement because the city had recently done some work on those and had some problems with some, I think, stability. So the Two Falls Bridge is not part of our obligation. Now, we did have to barricade that because it turned into a hazard. In communication with the mayor and his staff, we had some thoughts and visions on how we could, take another idea with that bridge and basically remove, the half. There's several piers. We'd keep the one pier, take the second piece of the bridge out that goes towards the Cascade Street, and then turn that into an overlook. So we'd have a projection up, or safe railing there. You could look towards the West Falls and then turn back towards the confluence, and you could get a nice overall look at the river there, the West Falls branch as it comes into the confluence. So that was our thought and vision. I shared that again with the mayor, and said that's sort of a long-term vision that we had, but again, we don't own it. That's the city of Elyria's purview. So we just wanted to share that. So.
Okay, well, thank you very much. That's good information to know. We'll see if anybody has any questions. Okay, Mr. Oswald has his question, or hand up.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So, is this the metal bridge?
Yeah, it's a steel bridge. If I recall the history, it was circa maybe 2006, 2007 when that was put in. Contractor was Don Mold's Construction. Mm-hmm. I know we had made several trips to watch it under construction. I know they had some issues during those seasons. They had several big washouts. Anyway, it was installed. It was there. Several years later, and again, it's just a pinpoint time. It's not to assess any kind of blame. Mukund was the city engineer then. We had asked, there were some problems. We could see some shifting and some kind of twisting and torquing of the bridge. And then Mayor Grace and Mukund had said, well, there's been some reports of some mini earthquakes, some geologic shifts, and that had torqued it a little bit. Some time had gone on, and again, it's just a pinpoint time. City engineer was Tim Uvari. We had some conversations with Mr. Uvari and his staff, and they had some solutions where they basically saw cut the ends to give it a little bit of room to maneuver like an expansion joint. Unfortunately, that didn't take care of the problem either. It's still pretty severely torqued, and it's not getting any better. I think, again, not an expert on geology or earthquakes or seismic action, anticipating that there's still some movement down there. Welcome to shale and sand, formations like that. But with again that, we had determined that it was unsafe because you could see the twisting and torquing and the displacement of the decking, and we determined it just wasn't safe. So that's why we had barricaded, but then rolled forward with the thought. The worst part again is the Cascade Street side. You can see a lot of that movement on that side. It's still pretty stable on the park side, on the Cascade Park side, and that's why we were hoping to salvage that one big piece, put that rail, and turn that into a nice, very, very nice overlook to see the falls and the confluence. Yes, sir, Mr. Oswald. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Chair.
You're fine.
My bad.
Okay, Mr. Oswald, go right ahead. You got
For you. So, I guess what I'm saying is that we know what Earth does. It moves.
Yes.
And of course, we don't want to keep throwing money at this thing because we still know that it's going to move. I don't want to say, and I'm just jumping in with these ideas, but sometimes you have to scrap that idea and move somewhere different or whatever. We keep going on an area that we know that there's been disturbance. It's going to continue. So what you're saying, even by cutting it in half or going to a certain pier, there's still a possibility that we're still going to run into, here again, another 10 or 20 years.
That's very possible, Mr. Oswald. Yes, absolutely. We don't see any evidence of that movement on that Cascade side. We see all that appears to be on the other side. But you're 100% right. There is a roll of the dice. There's a calculated risk that there could be additional movement, twisting and torquing. But we're not seeing it to date. And again, if that bridge was put in circa 2006 and 7, we've got 14, 15 years at least under our belt to say we're not seeing movement on that side. It's all on the other side. So
if we did do that, we could just sign it over to you afterwards, and then it's your responsibility.
That's always a possibility. Everything is negotiable, as you know that. So it's a discussion we could have. Absolutely.
Okay, are there any other questions? I had a conversation with Councilman Jesse, and he had mentioned, because he's on the committee for the parks with Councilman Davis and Councilwoman Keys, in regards to that, was there a study recently did you have an engineer take a look at it from the Metro Parks?
We didn't commission any studies. As you know, we did all the improvements with the trail. We did the big new bridge there by the, again, connecting Cascade to Elywood. We utilized, I guess, some opportunities to speak to that engineer. It was Kay McCartney and their staff. Asked them to take a look at this. Honestly, we did not do any kind of detailed study. We didn't commission any kind of study on that. Asked them their opinion. They were very helpful in helping us round up some contractors and some estimates, and said this is very possible that you could do this. So yeah, we have not done any kind of detailed analysis of that. Correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay, are there any other questions, comments? Okay, I guess going forward, I guess City Council or the City of Elyria, along with Metro Parks, we have to make a determination, based on reporting and engineering, on whether we want to repair it, have another bridge built, or go with a observation deck. That's true. Yes. Mr. Jesse.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. I'd like to see, I'm not sure where this would come from specifically, but to get a quote on what it would cost to do the proposal that you guys talked about, and then see where we are. And of course, we keep waiting for infrastructure funds, and that would be something that I think would fall under that category. But I'd love to know how much it would cost to do that partial and then with a overlook.
Well, Mr. Jesse, thank you for teeing that up. We again, when I indicated with Kay McCartney and our own staff and some contractors who were doing the big bridge that we installed, they came back with an estimate that it'll be about $140,000 to $150,000. Mobilize the equipment over there, stabilize the banks, take out the Cascade Street side of it, cut and salvage a piece of that rail, and then we would just put that rail across the front. So yeah, that price tag is about $140 to $150. I think we got that in late June. I think it's still a valid number. Candidly, I think it's probably a little high number. It's a comfortable number. One number that the contractor and the engineers did not include is any kind of redecking, but we felt comfortable and confident in the existing decking on the Cascade side that it was salvageable, could be reused, reset if it had to be. But there's enough, and the point is there's enough decking in terms of what's being demoed and what's remaining that we don't feel we would have to buy any additional decking. But that's your price, Mr. Jesse.
Thank you. Councilwoman Davis.
Through you, Mr. Chair, well, since that the city of Elyria owns that bridge, can't we get the Pacific engineers just to take a look at it, to see exactly what is wrong with it? So it sounds like we haven't had the proper engineers down there looking at it. So I would like to know for sure. We know you said it's shifting on one side, and so let's get some specifics of the problem, even though we may just go to an observation deck. But at least we'll know for sure. We know it probably is shifting, but let's know for sure.
Sure. Yes, I agree. The whole theory behind the referral by Councilwoman Davis and Councilwoman Simmons and myself was to find out what the best course of action would be, going forward, because we don't know. And getting those studies on whether the bridge could be repaired, should the bridge be torn down, should there be an observation deck, we don't know, and we needed a starting point, and we need to have some experts take a look at it. And if we, need to appropriate some money to have an expert team to tell us what it is, at least we'll know where it's at. But the key is if we want to build another bridge at some point, I don't know, there's a lot of grants out there, and we check a lot of the boxes with Cascade Park. And it's a lot of money that's available, and by being proactive and possibly applying for those grants, just as a grant paid for that bridge way back in 2006. So, are there any other questions? And then
If you indulge me, Mr. Callahan, I think that, again, that was to be, I guess, pay homage to Mayor Whitfield and Mr. Brubaker, Mr. Jesse and the staff. That was very much part of the discussion. We get together periodically, discuss the, what we've done, how's it going, what's sort of next on the agenda. And that question came up, and the mayor and Mr. Brubaker et al. Had said, what do you guys got going? We said, well, this is visionary. This is something that you might want to think about. You could, and they did, and the timing was everything. It was very much driven by the dollars that might be available in infrastructure or through the county, that this could be a good investment, based on, some of the COVID. Mr. Jesse, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm calling on Mr. Kelly.
That's fine.
My bad.
Okay, Mr. Jesse, go right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just one other thing to Mr. Zimnick. We had occasion to attend an event out at the new barn out there across from JBS.
Yes.
And that is just spectacular. So one more, every facility, every park, everything in the county is just beautiful. Thank you. Thank your staff and everyone. But if you haven't had a chance, what's the name on it?
It's North Star Preserve is the entire, reservation, but it's Henry's Barn.
Henry's Barn. It's just gorgeous there. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, are there any other questions? Okay, seeing not, I'd like to thank Mr. Zemanek for being here, communicating with us. We appreciate that. That's important. We hope we can continue this, not just on this topic, but others as we go forward. I want to thank the mayor's not here tonight, but the mayor's staff with Mr. Brubaker for inviting Mr. Zemanek. I want to also thank Law Director Deary for making some suggestions to me. And the last thing I would say, and this was a good suggestion, that we'll table this, but we'd also like to refer this topic to the committee that Mr. Jesse sits on, along with Mrs. Keys and Mrs. Davis, and bring this topic up with those folks, get some ideas, and see where you come up with. And, and as time goes on, we can come up with a solution and take it from there. But for now, we'll just table this item, and it was a good discussion. And I want to thank again everybody. We really appreciate the good dialogue.
Thank you, Mr. Callahan.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you again. Seeing no other issues for community development, I would accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Sarah, seconded by Mrs. Mitchell.
Question.
Question on the motion. All in favor of the motion, please use the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried. Meeting adjourned. Finance will take over with Mr. Tolet.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First item on the agenda for the Finance Committee is the meeting minutes of August 30th.
Excuse me?
Move approval of the minutes from August 30th.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next item on the agenda, number 2, the matter of purchasing 10 new police vehicles for the Elyria Police Department. This was referred by Chief Whiteley. Chief Whiteley, can you say a few words on this?
Yes, we do this periodically, pretty much every year. We wait till the end of the year, make sure our budget's in line, and then we ask to purchase vehicles to keep the fleet up and running, so it doesn't ever get back to the way it was before the issue 6 had passed.
Will these funds come out of what we refer to as issue 6, Mr. Pulaski?
Through you, Mr. Chair. No, actually, the police department's budget and the general fund is running under budget in salary and wages by 800 and some thousand, and their budget in the police levy fund is running under budget. So my recommendation would be to purchase 8 from the general fund, 2 from the police levy fund, and the moving of the money is included in tonight's appropriation changes if you choose to do that.
Thank you. And last question, what's the time frame on this, Chief?
Well, what we try to do is we try to get it in, the order in before the end of September, because that's when the pricing changes. And we want to put the order in and hopefully get 2022 cars at 2021 prices.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Just the 3, Mr. Chair, just to
Yes.
comment, then each vehicle is estimated at $45,000, so it'll be a total of $450,000 with 8 coming from the general fund and 2 from the police levy fund.
Thank you. Chief, would we need to pass this as an emergency?
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Jesse?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. And I misplaced that paper, and I didn't know if you said, are we still able to get the Ford vehicles? I thought I remembered they were gonna stop making.
Ford? Yes, that's what we would be getting.
So the same ones that we've been
Yes.
getting? Okay.
Any other questions of the committee? Let me read the ordinance then. The ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement for the purchase of 10 new vehicles for the police department, amount not to exceed $450,000. 8 of the vehicles would be coming out of the general fund, 2 out of the police levy fund. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion's been ordinance been, properly approved and seconded. All in favor, use the voting sign aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Chief.
You should thank us. Thank it. Oops.
Just one second.
Take care.
Next item on the agenda, excuse me. Okay. Next item on the agenda is the matter of a denied moral claim for damage submitted by Pam Bodnar. This was referred by Safety Service Director Brubaker. Safety Service Director, if you could speak on this, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Bodnar is here, and she's coming up to the mic, but early in August, I received a claims for damage for a pothole that caused a bubble and a fairly new tire. The cost was $177 and some change. I got a report, as I typically do, from our street department when we get this, or any department we get a claims for damage, and they had indicated that they were not made aware of this pothole prior to the incident that happened on Ms. Bodnar. They did make the repair. That section of Gulf Road is kind of notorious for potholes, and Ms. Bodnar will speak to that. So once I got that information, I submitted it to the law director's office, who reviewed it, and they denied the claim, and the next step would be for the proponent to ask for a moral claim for $177.26, and Ms. Bodnar is here to share on her behalf the same.
Thank you. Ms. Bodnar, if you want to go ahead and speak, please
So first of all,
give your name and address for the record.
Okay, I'm Pam Bodnar, 125 Maples Drive, Elyria. Welcome to me. Very nervous about this. I did hit on the way home on July 26th, on the way home from work, hit a rather aggressive pothole that, as Mr. Brubaker said, caused me to have to get a new tire in the tune of $177.26. So I did my due diligence. I did everything I was supposed to. I took pictures. I sent in my title, my insurance, everything. I filled out a little
Excuse
form.
me, can you pull the mic just a little closer? I'm sorry.
Do you want me to start over? Or no?
No, you're good.
Okay. Sent all the documentation in like I was supposed to. And then I was really surprised to get the denial, and the reason being because no one had reported that to the street department. When I thought, well, first of all, how do I know nobody reported it? Maybe it was an oversight. And then I thought, well, everyone knows that that stretch of Gulf Road is notorious for potholes. You know, I live over there, and there is so many fills all the time. And then I thought to myself, well, if someone the next day after I told the city, and then someone else comes by and hits it and puts a claim in, does that mean the city will pay their claim because I told them about it, but they wouldn't pay my claim? I mean, like I said, that is on the side of the west side of the street but on the riverside, nobody lives over there. I mean, who is going to be telling that there's a pothole there? Unless it's like me, who unfortunately hit it. You know, so I'm here to ask for, you know, measly $177, which is a lot of money to me, because it, you know, we feel like we pay our taxes and that road should be maintained. I mean, I know there's a lot of roads that need to be maintained, and I know that that's like the law, but I just think it's a really bad section and it should be watched more often.
I'm going to ask a question. Your point that if you make the claim and the next person that hits it then could file and potentially receive.
Yeah, because I
understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask the law director to, if you could clarify that, because that's confusing in my mind as well.
Yeah, I mean, in that hypothetical, as unfair and as that may sound, yes, once the city is put on notice and the city's records show that the city is aware of a pothole or debris in the road or that sort of thing and fails to act, then yes. So again, you giving us notice of this, if somebody were to go out and hit that same pothole tonight, then yes, legally, the argument would be that we would be liable and we should pay that person's claim.
So that
when the law department rejects a claim, all that my office is saying is that pursuant to Ohio Revised Code, what we are saying is that we are not legally liable in our interpretation, and that is why the next step is a moral claim.
Thank you. Do any members of the committee have questions? Yes.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask Ms. Pam, did you call the police right then and notify the city that the pothole was there at the time that you hit it?
I know. I did it all by the mail. Because I had
the mail.
It didn't blow my tire right then. It caused the bubble, and then it was leaking, and that's when I took it to the auto service center, and I said, did that pothole cause that? And he said, absolutely. So no, I didn't think, because I didn't know anything about the law. I didn't know anything about that. I just thought, well, I'm going to get online, and I went on the website, and I said, oh, look at, they got all this stuff to do. So, and I wasn't going to even bother, because there was so much you had to do. You had to fill out, like, I don't know how many pages. You had to get a copy of your title, your insurance, all this stuff. And I thought, no, you know what? That cost me, time off work and to get that fixed. So I'm going to do it.
So your problem happened through you, Mr. Chair. So your problem happened the next day?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, not exactly the next day. The tire started losing air, and I immediately took it, and they said, you have a bubble inside.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Brubaker.
And Mr. Chairman, just for the record, I don't know if folks were given a packet of what she submitted, but the tire that was damaged in this was, to her, less than a year old. So it wasn't a tire that was, flat or had no tread or anything like that. It was about a year old.
And you did, for the record, you did send someone out to repair this pothole after she made the city aware of this, correct?
It was, yes, Mr. Chairman. We notified the street department, but I received a letter from Ms. Bodner about filing the moral claim, and in her letter, she stated that at that time, the hole was still there. So I drove out there and looked, and the hole was there, and I contacted the street department, and they went out that day and filled it that day.
Right. So
Thank you.
It was still there.
Mr. Baird.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I think for $177, we can go up to $500 on a claim, moral claim. You did all the work, you had the problem. I move that we honor the claim.
Okay. We have the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions?
Question.
All in favor of paying the moral claim? Use a voting sign aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have one nay.
Who was nay?
I didn't hear.
Yeah, one name.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much.
Does that mean yes?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Has to go to full council for
Okay.
final, for you to receive your
Okay.
check, but,
Okay.
okay?
Thank you. Have a great evening, everybody.
Thank you. Okay. Excuse me one second. Item number four on the agenda has been removed. This was approved in utilities, so it does not need to go through finance. And the final issue for this evening, number 5, the matter of amendments to the 2021 Permanent Appropriations Ordinance. Finance Director Pileski or Mr. Farrell, I see you're at the, if you could take off, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. There's 3 this evening in the, CDBG Fund, Public Facilities, Capital Outlay, an additional $5,238, for grant monies. In the General Fund, Housing Code, Building Department, an increase of $23,000 in salary and wages, and $500 in benefits, and a decrease, this is transferred from operating and maintenance. This is for 2 new hires in the building department. And the last 2 involve the 10 police cruisers or police cars in the general fund, police department, reducing salary and wages by $360,000, an increase in the capital outlay by $360,000. That's for 8 of the 10 cruisers. And then in the police levy, salary and wages, a reduction of $90,000 and an increase in capital outlay of $90,000 for the remaining 2 cruisers. So that's the 3
Thank you,
appropriations.
Mr. Farrell. Do we have any questions of the committee? If there are no questions, excuse me. Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the appropriation changes?
Move to approve the appropriation changes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, use a voting sign aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Mr. Baird?
Hearing no further business, move we adjourn.
Thank you. Oh, I apologize. I need a second on the adjournment, please. All in favor, use a voting sign aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thanks, everyone.